Finally, my people. Tinubu is going. Shettima is going. They are going down. Abisona be the prophet whose grace is coming. This grace on old Tinubu. Make una begin to rejoice because this one will be said don't happen. So Tinubu cannot escape it. Shettima cannot escape it. Hey, the latest what would they hear right now from the Island People's Movement says Chichi Ojai talk. She can't talk, say Shettima in nomination is invalid. Because the time when Shettima take come in as vice president, it don't pass the stipulated date of 14 days. Right there, it could be 21 days. I go show now the video mokuna see am. And the thing come dey for their law. The Nigerian constitution say now only either person die or something tragic happen, now you go fit exceed that 14 days. Otherwise, that candidate is disqualified. When they say give Peter Obi the edge to win this election. They say when the tribunal see this evidence, they tire. They say when APC lawyers see this evidence, hey, they say they come out their glasses. Hey, my people. They say when they see all this evidence, they tire. No law back this one. Only this one I did the constitution. Only this one I did the constitution. They not fit argue am. Hey, in fact, Shettima nomination is invalid. And anything will make Shettima nomination they invalid, Tinubu own is also invalid. My people, this one is sweet too. So that the news will be say they rain now. Everybody they jolly, everybody they dance. My people, hey, this one and many news. It pile up on what can show now. See, Tinubu, the rope where tie am, even he said no go fit cut am. The disgrace where they wait for him. Hey. Una remember the video where I show una the very first day when they do inauguration, when the man confused Obero. When the wife when they Obero for him, he can't confuse, you can't look at wife. And they talk and they tell me say, I don't know what they call the man is demented. And they tell now the man is demented. Right now fuel don't pass 700 naira per liter. Hey, they say me when we wear suit now check that they check. Hey, my people. Don't be smart, though. This APC governor, the one we can surprise me pass for instance, I be say the people we support Tinubu. All of them they cry now. Supporters of Tinubu, all of them they cry now. Hey. If you ask, they say, "God, father," they'll say, they say they do another first point before Tinubu enter. My people, they say Tinubu do this. He do all those things you're doing. It don't make sense. He ministers not green breed they come out. He not get anything to offer. The man is demented now. The man needs to go and rest. Not be smart here. They tell right now people don't dey against Tinubu right now. Say he talk say. Emefiele, he carry ammunition, carry gun, he carry all those things wey be say he take dey guard himself. They say that Asari wey come visit her for Iaso Rock. They show when the guy they load the pop passion, they load the AK-47. Tinubu not do anything. DSS not go arrest him. How come a citizen like Asari they talk say he carry the same thing? But they arrest him. My people, it's not the news I break up for now. He plenty. When sit down, when watch it, the thing too plenty. And if you begin to analyze everything, when sit down, what the thing from the beginning to the end. This thing, it go there very interesting. All the LEP, Peter Obi is leading. We'll get there. All right, so it's gonna be Bod TV board. I will see you on my next video.
Among all the cases, baggages, and violations that Tinubu is facing at the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal, the one that was brought by this lady might just be the one that will sack Tinubu 1000%. Yes, the case is so solid that even Tinubu's legal team agreed with the lady. No one took the Allied People's Movement petition seriously, but now, with all the facts laid bare, It is very evident that Tinubu won't survive this. Now, let's make an illustration so that everyone will understand what is going on. It is quite different from the double nomination of Shettima. Yes, this one is invalid nomination. Starting on the left, 24th June 2022. That was the day that Masari, the placeholder that Tinubu appointed as his vice presidential candidate, that was the day he withdrew from the candidacy. So counting from that day up till the 14th of July, when Shettima withdrew from his senatorial nomination and took up the vice presidential nomination. So if you count the number of days it took Shettima to take up the vice presidential nomination, it took them a total of 21 days to effect the change, which is in violation of Section 33 of the Electoral Act. Let's take a look at what it says. A political party shall not be allowed to change or substitute its candidate whose name has been submitted under Section 29 of this Act, except in the case of death or withdrawal by the candidate, provided that in the case of such withdrawal or death of a candidate, the political party affected shall, within 14 days of the occurrence of the event, hold a fresh primary election to produce and submit a fresh candidate to the commission for the election concerned. So looking at this section, you can agree that Tinubu's candidacy was not valid at the time of the election. It took them 21 days to effect the change of the vice presidential candidate instead of under 14 days, according to Section 33 of the Electoral Act. So after 14 days, they should have conducted a fresh presidential primary as the law stipulated. But they failed to do so, which has rendered the candidacy of Tinubu invalid. What's very important in this petition is that the respondents failed to challenge or contradict all the evidence that the APM witness tendered. They also did not dispute the date that Masari withdrew from the vice presidential nomination. In fact, in their final address, they said this: as events will turn out at about 24th June 2022, the fifth respondent, that's Masari, for reasons best known to him, exercised his right to voluntarily withdraw from the race. This, of course, placed a burden on the third respondent, that's Tinubu, to pick another associate or running mate for the election. The lot eventually fell on the fourth respondent, that's Shettima, who was selected by the third respondent as his running mate on 14th July 2022 after serious consultations and deliberations. So, as you can see, the case is very solid. The petitioners couldn't counter any evidence that the APM witness submitted. In fact, they agreed with all that she said. Initially, when this case started, people were saying that Masari actually withdrew on the 10th of July, not 24th of June. But this lady came with the affidavit that Masari swore. And going by the contents of the affidavit, it means that the withdrawal he made became effective immediately. When he said these words, that I am no longer interested in being the vice presidential nominee of the All Progressives Congress at the said presidential election scheduled for February 2023, that I hereby wish and I do voluntarily withdraw from being the vice presidential candidate of the party to run alongside as associate of its presidential candidate. Now, let's see the Supreme Court judgment on the double nomination of Shettima. Honorable Justice Okoro, in his own judgment, made these statements. For public policy's sake, I must state that indeed the fourth respondent withdrew from the nomination for Borno Central District on the 6th of July 2022, exhibited as Exhibit APC 1 on page 58 of the Record of Appeal. The political party sent to the INEC same 6th of July 2022 the notice of withdrawal. The political party further sent on the 10th of July 2022 notification of dates for the conduct of fresh primaries for the senatorial district, and the latter letter, Exhibit APC 2 on page 59 of the record, carried the reference of Exhibit APC 1. That is, as at 6th of July 2022, there was no longer nomination of the fourth respondent for Borno Central Senatorial District, and there could not have been double nomination on the 14th of July 2022. What's interesting here is that despite Shettima withdrawing earlier than the date people thought he withdrew on the 6th of July 2022. He only avoided double nomination. He did not avoid the invalid nomination of Tinubu's candidacy because he was still nominated on the 14th of July 2022. So the gap of 21 days still exists. There's nothing they can do. It's all gone now. Some people were actually saying that they backdated this date to avoid the double nomination issue, but they didn't know that they would still fall into the trap of invalid nomination. The APM legal team also supported all their cases with a judicial precedent that was decided in 2010 between Peter Okocha and INEC. Peter Okocha was the governorship candidate in Delta State. Interestingly, the current Chief Justice of Nigeria was among the justices that decided the matter at the Court of Appeal. They held that Peter Okocha was not qualified to have contested the governorship election in Delta State for not having an associate validly sponsored for the election. So this case looks home and dry. Maybe the respondents felt that the matter was already covered in Shettima's double nomination because the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. But it is obviously not so, as you can see. It is quite different. They are asking the court to nullify Tinubu's candidacy because of invalid nomination. He was not duly nominated because it took him more than 14 days to nominate a vice presidential candidate. So the issue of whether Tinubu will be sacked or disqualified is no longer a question. It is about when it will happen. It's going to happen. It's now 100% certain. In concluding their reply, the APM legal team stated that they have proved that Tinubu was not qualified to contest the presidential election on 25th February 2023, as he had no running mate in compliance with Section 142, subsection 1 of the Constitution. They also said that the fifth respondent withdrew as the running mate of the third respondent on 24th of June 2022. The Electoral Act provides 14 days for second and third respondents to replace the fifth respondent. The fifth respondent was replaced by the fourth respondent on the 14th of July 2022. That is 21 days from the day Masari withdrew from the vice presidential nomination, contrary to Section 33 of the Electoral Act 2022. So they proved their case 100%. The whole world is now watching to see how the honorable justices will decide the matter.
Inept, corruption-infested government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has again increased fuel prices to 700 naira. Officially at the NNPC pump price, it is 617 naira will land. But of course, you know the ripple effect, what that will mean, it is now 700 naira. Where does that leave Nigerians? 700 naira a liter of fuel, and I can tell you this morning that the prices are marching upwards. This is a man who promised palliatives. They got $800 million in further loans from the Bretton Woods and the World Bank, which they are now sharing among themselves. We all know that the National Assembly is cornering 70 billion of that amount for itself. 35 billion naira is going to the National Judicial Council. We in the CLO know that all of this is a well-designed conspiracy to compromise the judiciary. But Nigerians are no longer fools. We must now all get our loins to prepare to engage these politicians. They are not politicians, because I also know that politicians are people who are a group of leaders who have the interests of their people at heart. But what we have, by even the regrouping of the so-called class of 99 people, governors, when we have succeeded in chasing away the military, they regrouped and managed to seize the different political offices as governors of the 36 states of the Federation. What did we get in return? They stole all the resources across the states, apart from a few governors like Donald Duke. Just some of them, you can mention them with our fingertips. It does not matter whether a politician today is your father, your brother, or your uncle. If it's not patriotic, if it does not have the interests of Nigerians at heart, we must organize and mobilize against these people now, before it is too late for all of us. Nigeria cannot go the path of Sudan. We cannot go the path of Ukraine and Russia. We have a country that we call our own today. A small country like Seychelles is rejecting Nigerian passport holders. Why? Because we have lost it. We can no longer close our mouths and allow this band of few individuals to to hold our country hostage. The time to rescue our country is now. If you have questions, we'll take it. Executive Director of the CLO is here. We have other senior members of the CLO seated here. Are your media house?
My name is Joseph Authority Newspaper. When you
take back, how will Nigerians take back their country? Basically, that's the summary of your question. Well, it's a question for all of us. How are we going to take back our country? Are we going to sit back, just throw our hands in the air, and say, oh, these people are bigger than us, they are more powerful? We can take back our country by individually raising our voices and collectively raising our voices. Because a country of 200 million people, if you have 50 million people talking, telling the government that enough is enough, I'm sure they'll be very uncomfortable. So they are doing what they are doing because the rest of us are just quiet. Each time they push the bar, we adjust. They push the bar, we adjust. But if they push the bar, even in countries, in Tunisia, you know how the Arab Spring started? It is just a card pusher. Somebody, just a local government, they increased the tax and asked him to pay some few pennies more. And he said no, that he cannot even make profit from what he's doing. And then they seized this, whatever he was pushing to sell, and took it to the office. The man just simply went to his house, told his people that he's going to kill himself, that his only means of livelihood has been taken from him. He took fuel, went there, set himself ablaze. And the people he told others that this is the reason why this man set himself ablaze. And he just caught on. Before you knew it, everywhere was ablaze. But Nigerians are used to tolerating suffering. How you guys got here this morning, I'm sure you went through harrowing experiences. You are going to return from the money you even pay in getting here. By the time you are living here now, it's doubled, it's tripled. And then you just go to your offices again, you adjust. Maybe the quality of food you are eating will have to drop to give way for further expenditures. Now, the question is, how long are we going to tolerate this direct assault on our livelihood? This is an existential issue. It's about life and death. It's an existential issue. So if you do not rise up, whether you're a lawyer, a medical doctor, a journalist, whatever profession that you find yourself, if you do not say that enough is enough, I can tell you, oppressors do not give up. The only language oppressors understand is a stronger force of resistance. When that comes, the CLO is not going to negotiate with them. We're not going to hold any meeting with anybody. We are going to continue what we are doing. We have a tradition. The CLO have a tradition of resisting obnoxious and oppressive policies. And we are not going to hold meetings. CLO has never held meeting with any government. Whether you are a governor or you are president, we have never had that tradition of, we monitor the process of governance under our governance and democracy program. Once we see that the policies that is being pushed out by any government, whether at the national or subnational level, is anti-people, we confront it. That's our strategy. And so, for us to confront it, we need to also educate Nigerians, inform Nigerians that this is now the path to follow. When Tinubu came on May 29, he gave an address where on that day he said he was taking up fuel subsidy. And the thing opened debates. We were watching as an organization how and what strategies Nigerians will adopt in dealing with that. Nigerians simply adjusted. We have a duty as a human rights organization. We don't just say we are a civil society organization. We are a human rights organization. And the right to life is inherent, is inalienable, is given by God. So when government push policies that seems to push you into extinction, you have a right to resist. It is within the ambits of the law for you to to resist using every legal means at your disposal. The truth is, if this morning we can find 500 Nigerians who will go to the gate of the National Assembly and sit down on the floor, that nobody's going to come out and go out. Even if you shoot and kill, they will be tired.
Tinubu wanted these people out. It's very clear.
So now that it seems that President Tinubu seems to be having his way all the way, whether it's in who emerges as a president of the Senate, Speaker of the House, principal officers, and now, he's having his way as to who should be the national chairman of the party. What exactly does that tell us? What does that even say?
It means we are trying to build strong men rather than strong institutions. And I understand it here. Remember, I had warned here that my problem with Tinubu coming in as president is not that he won't be able to govern very well. Right. That my only major fears is that he may build a one-party state. And that's where we're heading to now. And Tinubu should learn from what Barack Obama has said while visiting Ghana, that if you build strong institutions, it helps even when you are not there.
Yeah,
a lot of people who built themselves rather than build institutions, who are out of power today, are facing the challenges that come with, building yourself, with people who just keep trumpeting you there. Because when you're no longer there, the institutions won't fight for you. This is the time for Tinubu, as someone who has stayed outside and was called as the national leader of the party, to reorganize the party. I'm thinking that, well, it may look like he's trying to reorganize the party, but from the trajectory you have just laid in place now, Tinubu, in trying to promote himself as someone who is very skilled in the issues of politics and strategy, may end up boxing himself to be seen from the position of an autocrat who gets everything that he wants. And in democracy, you cannot always get everything you want. If the president keeps getting everything that he wants, then we are no longer practicing democracy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him saying you can't get everything you want on a la carte,
Well, power is not served a la carte.
Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborowori on Monday visited the family of a 2-year-old boy who was killed by stray bullets, reportedly from operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency in the state's capital on Thursday, July 13th. The NDLEA officials allegedly fired the bullets, which killed the 2-year-old boy Ivan and left his 1-year-old brother wounded in the left eye. Oborowori visited the family at the Federal Medical Center, Asaba, where the 1-year-old boy is receiving treatment. Well, on July 13th, a video of the boy's father crying out for help when the incident occurred went viral.
They have killed my family! They have killed my family! They have killed my daughter in the shop. NDLEA, please, NDLEA have killed my daughter with straight bullet because they want to do an arrest within the neighborhood. They shoot bullets. He came to meet my daughter and my son in the shop. Please, people should help me. I'm following them now. I'm following them. God, oh.
It's so sad. Well, during his visit, the Delta State Governor commiserated with the family on the unfortunate demise of Ivan and promised that all efforts will be made to bring the culprits to book.
The NDLEA authorities and police to investigate the case of what happened, what led to the incident, and bring the culprits to book. And we know that the security agencies are already doing that. Call the CP. The CP will soon be here now and give more details to know how far they have gone with their investigation.
This is a chilling story. I was heartbroken when I learned this story. It was too late for me to take because they were still doing an investigation there, which I don't really understand. What really occurred on Thursday was that the NDLEA officials were going on some sort of manhunt and they fired some stray bullets and the young boy died. I mean, this is so unfortunate. He even followed them to the office. They even engaged in some sort of, fisticuff or even, I don't understand. What I still don't understand, this is since Thursday last week, and they're still talking about investigation. There is a clear video, Ayo. You saw those officials in the van.
Yes. So Mr. Femi Babafemi, the Director of Media and Advocacy of the NDLEA, took to Twitter to explain what happened last week, Thursday. Now, he said that they had gone for a raid in Okpanam area in Delta State. And when they got there, one of the guys was trying to make away and ran over one of their men, and he was injured. That the man is, the officer is currently in hospital. So whilst they were trying to chase him and destabilize his vehicle by shooting at his tires, the stray bullet hit young Ivan and also his younger brother, Eromesele. Now, when this happened, you heard the father in that video who was clearly distressed, was so disorientated, was referring to his son as his daughter. But irrespective of what the NDLEA has said, Oji, you're very correct. This happened on Thursday, the 13th. Today is Tuesday, the 18th. And yes, kudos to the Delta State Governor, Governor Sheriff Oborowori, for going. But what we want is not just him going there and visiting the family, which is good, and promising to pay the bills, the hospital bills of Eromesele. It is that justice has to be done, and it shouldn't take this long. If Mr. Babafemi can go onto Twitter to explain what happened, surely they know the men who went on that operation. They know. There were eyewitnesses to this as well. They know. We have footage already from these men. A simple investigation. What we don't want is for this to be buried. Look at the video. We can see, I mean, even though their faces are blurred, you have the plate number of that vehicle. You know the men who went out for that operation. Why is it so difficult to fish out the person who shot? Even if it was done in error or in mistake, or as a mistake, we've had a number of stories of stray bullets in Nigeria. This has to be investigated. They have to, a thorough investigation to find out if that use of force was necessary and why it had to be applied, and then justice for that young boy's life. We shouldn't keep quiet about this. The case of the lawyer in Lagos State who was shot by, I saw an update in the papers that the judgment will be served in a few days. We need to follow up these stories till the very end.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't just make headlines when we lose a life, but what happens to those who perpetrated this?
About law and order, these people are there is no arrest made, and people are brandishing assault rifles. I mean, kudos to the Delta State governor. Before I come to you in the meantime, this is just as 60 human rights lawyers summoned the High Court in Abuja to call for the arrest of the Director General of the State Security Service, Yusuf Bichi, over alleged violation of multiple judgments and orders of court directing the release of suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele from custody. A civil advocacy group known as the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has also condemned Emefiele's continued detention, stating that it is shameful that the DSS, which had failed to arrest ex-Niger Delta agitator Asari Dokubo, whose viral video trended where he brandished military assault rifles and threatened to bring fire and brimstone on a section of Nigeria, has not been arrested and charged for illegal possession of firearms, but instead is pressing charges against Emefiele for alleged illegal possession of firearms. The group also queried why all the bandits brandishing military-grade weapons in videos have not been arrested and prosecuted by the DSS. Over the weekend, Rufai, I spoke with SAM Fushika, who, talked about the fact that even this firearm possession that the federal government has charged Emefiele, which, we saw that case over the weekend, is a fine of about 20,000 naira. I mean, this is the charge that they have against Emefiele. But I think the main bone of contention for me, Rufai, is this brandishing of assault a rifle. You see the group calling, Emefiele's arrest as, a shame. In fact, it's almost making a mockery of the whole system at this point.
But Oji, even a blind man knows that this is vendetta against Emefiele. Even the deaf hears that this is vendetta against Emefiele. The president gave himself out. He went to a foreign country and he called the CBN rotten. And he had pretty much made his point known as regards this. We all know the speech of Wagbe Naira Pamo and all of that. And the vendetta was so strong that when they tried doing this last year, the court rebuffed the DSS. But once President Tinubu was sworn in and they got their chance, we all remember the calisthenics that happened. How they used a private jet to go carry Emefiele from Lagos, bundled him and all of that with our own taxpayers' money, only for us to see the charge sheets. But they've kept him there for a long month. They've ransacked his homes.
Allegedly, I heard it was about 300,000 naira.
Yeah, so they've ransacked his homes. I mean, if they found something incriminating, they should be able to put it on the charge sheet after a month. But you see, I said something earlier on, and I think I need to break it down. It's either we are trying to build a funny democracy, a democracy that is a joke to the world because there's no respect for rule of law, or we are trying to build a phony democracy, which is a fake democracy, which is a pseudo democracy, which is militarism. And that's why you see that they are making arguments they are not balanced. Look at the non-state actor brandishing a weapon.
Exactly, that's the point.
Right there, look at the non-state actor brandishing a weapon.
Yes.
And should anybody, and the DSS have not been able to do anything. But why would you blame him? Because this non-same actor also goes ahead to claim that he's so important that the president invited him. So when the president invited non-state actors, and right there at the villa, he came to take a swipe at the military of this country, and nothing has been done to him. So when I said earlier on that some people are bigger than the law in this country, I've been proven right. He took a swipe at the military, a very respectable institution, but there were no consequences. Brandishing the gun on live video, there was, I think somebody even wrote a petition as regards this. Nothing. Right. So we see how our country is playing out. And I ask again, do we want a funny democracy? Because all of this, the world is looking at us and laughing. This is the Nigeria that wants to be the giant of Africa. Or a phony democracy. And when I mean a phony democracy, a democracy that it's only in name, but the cardinal point of a democracy, which is the respect for the rule of law and the fact that the leaders can restrain themselves from their own personal interest, is no longer the order of the day. So I submit to Nigerians this morning, what kind of democracy do we want?
Well said, Rufai. We'll take another story. On his first homecoming as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas said that the 10th National Assembly would create a constitutional role for traditional rulers in the country. The Speaker, who stated this when he paid homage to the Emir of Zaria, Ambassador Ahmed Bamali, in Kaduna State over the weekend, was ushered into the palace with a colorful durbar. The Speaker further stated that the majority of members of the current House of Representatives understood the importance of the traditional institution in the country, and that he recognizes a paper that was presented by Traditional Rulers Council across the 6 geopolitical zones in 2020, where they clearly stated how they want the traditional institutions to function in this present dispensation. Well, in the same vein, Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka over the weekend called on the federal government to declare a national public holiday for traditionalists in the country. He made the declaration on his 89th birthday celebration. Soyinka said traditionalists had been neglected for too long in the nation, and that it is high time that they get their recognition, adding that traditional religions deserve annual holidays like Islam and Christianity.
It's about time we demanded, on behalf of traditional religions, an annual holiday like Islam and Christianity. We've had enough. We had enough of being second-class citizens in this nation. So, equal time, equal space, we demand public holidays. We demand it of state governments, local governments, and the federal government. We want an annual public holiday.
Annual holiday for traditionalists. Dr. Abati.
Number one, Professor Wole Soyinka, what he's saying there should be placed in proper perspective. You recall that recently in Ilorin, there was a lady, Madame Omolara, who wanted to lead the Isheshe traditional festival. And then people went and attacked her. They threatened her. And they said, look, you can't do a traditional festival. The Isheshe festival is for the worship of Oshun. You know, because they say this is Ilorin. And that on the orders of the Emir of Ilorin, His Royal Majesty.
Really? So there's a state religion in areas of Nigeria?
Well, so they claim. They use the name of the Emir.
Wow.
So they intimidated the woman, and Professor Soyinka came to our rescue. He now wrote a direct note to the Emir of Ilorin, Sulu Gambari. And it was a very scathing piece, you know, about Sulu Gambari, you are not omniscient, you are not omnipresent, something like that, which was widely published. Now, on the occasion of the public presentation of his latest book, Selected Poems, 1965 to 2022, a retrospective, he then made this same point, that look, in fact, traditional worshippers, religion worshippers, should even be allowed to have their own national holiday. This is the context. If Christians can have, if Muslims can have, then traditional religionists should also be given a national holiday when they want to celebrate. After all, Section 38 of the Constitution recognizes the freedom of thought, religion, and conscience. And the subsequent section recognizes the freedom of assembly. And Section 42 says you can't discriminate against people. So he's making a point about rights. So he repeated the point. And then he went a step further. He said you are stopping traditional religion worshippers. How about the architects of violence? How about ISWAP? How about Boko Haram? And that, look, what we hear from the security people is that files are always disappearing. Those ones are not prosecuted. The people who want to practice their own religion, they are the ones you want to intimidate. So he called it 3 demands from the House of the Muse. That was what he called it. So that's the context in that particular regard. As for traditional rulers playing a role, they used to play a role. The Lancaster Conference in London in 1957, I mean, there was a delegation of traditional rulers that were there, traditional rulers from different parts of Nigeria. They were part of the negotiations. Under the 1963 Constitution and the regional constitutions, we had House of Chiefs. In fact, some of the traditional rulers were even governors. Alhaji Muhammad Sanusi, Emir of Kano, at the time was acting governor of northern Nigeria. Sade Soji Aderemi was governor of the western region. But you see, after 1966, Unitary Decree 1 of 1966, all of these were abolished. So since then, people have been demanding, many of these traditional rulers, they are retired ambassadors, educated people, that they have a role to play. Well, so that's what the Speaker of the House was alluding to. The form it will take will be a matter for public debate.
All right. This is Bod TV Bod. In case the first time you come here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more uploads.